Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time for stage 2 of 3 of this V8SCOPS weekend at Sandown Raceway. The V8SCOPS support series on the Saturday night. We got the Grand Tour and the V8s coming up. 2 categories and plenty of fantastic racing coming your way before we go live a little later for the Max Bands Open. I'm Reese Gardner, Dan Yeaman with me in the commentary box, coming to you live on YouTube, Facebook, and Kick, with Jay Kennedy handling production in the background. Well, Dan, I gotta say, last night was very entertaining with the flat fours and the flat sixes making an appearance, but this time we're going to continue to add cylinders to the engines. We've gone from 4 to 6, and now in at least a few of these cars we're going to 8 cylinders.
Indeed we are. That'll be a good bit of diversity for us to enjoy this evening, with the Grand Tour at least providing that flexibility for us there. Then it's a bit more of a straightforward 8v8 battle, as you will, with our V8s later on today. But having been at Sandown today, a chance to enjoy some more of Sandown here in the virtual world. For myself, that is, Reece, at least getting a chance to get out and see the Speed Series action, at least for today's running of it, as they're part of their weekend at the circuit. It's everything Sandown this month, it seems, between real world and the sim. Pretty popular place to be at this time of year, it seems.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like September is Sandown month, and of course this track is a power circuit. There's plenty of straights around here, and what turns there are, they usually require a lot of braking, and they're quite slow. The big exceptions obviously being turn 1, which is a little more open, and 6, 7, and 8, the S's coming down the hill.
See how things go with the cars out here tonight. Should be good. I'd be curious. Yeah, as I said, not all. Yeah, it feels like we don't see these cars in this category out all too often. So yeah, we'll be looking forward to seeing how the drivers can tackle things for this one. That's for sure.
Well, Matthew Pignata is certainly showing that he is the one on the pace here at Sandown. The Alfa Venturi Mercedes now second place, with actually now goes straight back to first. It's looking like quite a battle between Pignata and Synergy Sim Racing's Damon Mulqueen, who we know to be the dominant driver in the 2-litre Tourers category, which is not racing this weekend. Mulqueen and Pignata both in Mercedes, and Mulqueen, it seems, has been one of the drivers to beat in this category as well. We have to keep an eye out for the likes of Robert Henry and Matthew Pluck, the KSR boys. They have been very active in supports this year, and they are mighty quick too. Yep,
plenty of drivers to keep our eyes on, it feels like, this evening. And that's good to see, I think, in many respects. Things like Mulqueen hasn't actually done a huge amount of GT4 racing, he said, when we last, I think when the Grand Tour last ran, Reece. So just trying something a bit different, a little bit extra for him, but certainly fitting in well with the category here and the drivers currently part of the series, at least, as he will come to the line. But that wasn't a flying lap. He's got just enough time left to go for one more run. Pignata, close, but not quite for him either there, on what would be his penultimate attempt at a lap.
Robert Henry, one of the drivers in the McLaren for tonight, and making his way out of Dandenong Road past Mark Noble. So let's see how Henry's McLaren tackles the final chicane here. Mid-engine car with the Mercedes being front engine. You see it bounces a little bit over those big curbs. And does he improve on this time? He does not, unfortunately. 1 minute 12.06. That's going to be Robert Henry's last attempt at a qualifying lap there. And Brady Baldwin, another Synergy driver in a Mercedes. He's doing all right at the moment, just rounding out the top 6, but he could stand to gain a few more tenths and break into that top 5. Let's see if he does. Well, he's not. He's going to go into the pits. And with 20 seconds remaining, it's probably a good time to practice your pit stops. Does Mulqueen commit to the end of this lap? No, he does not. Does anyone decide to commit to the end of a lap here? Yes, the Alfa Venturi Mercedes of Pignata is going to 111.67, and that is a new fastest lap there for Matthew Pignata right at the end of the session. So 11 cars, it seems, competing in this race for the Grand Tour category. They'll be headed up by Pignata and Mulqueen, AVR versus Synergy. We got Robert Henry and Matthew Pluck on the row behind. That is the two KSR McLarens. Let's see how much of an impression they're going to make, with Sean Linsell lining up in 5th for Evolution Racing Team alongside Mulqueen's teammate Brady Baldwin. Taylor Oakes is going to bring the Orbit Motorsports McLaren out alongside Thomas Riley and the other AVR Mercedes. Then we've got Linton Wills in the 2nd Alpha Venturi Mercedes, and Mark Noble in the 1 Porsche actually racing in this field. Daniel Stevens should be driving a BMW, but we'll see if he takes to the grid. All right, Dan, it's time to get things started here. And, of course, standing starts in all V8SCOPS support series. These cars are not used to that.
No, they're not at all, and this will be interesting to see how they handle things. Of course, yeah, traction control will be... well, all those cars have TC. See if they can get things away nicely. And also the fact that some of these cars have a clutch, some of them don't. So we're going to probably see a fair bit of idle roll-off here, and just see which car's going to get their power down without having to get into traction control to get things underway. So a bit of this, bit of that to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, I did notice that Robert Henry was practicing a standing start at the end of the qualifying session. These are all the drivers on the Zoom wall for tonight. Shane Bowen there in top middle. Looks like he's going to be racing in the V8s category later on. We also have Dan Stevens, who's actually decided to jump into practice for the V8s, not taking part in the Grand Tour category tonight. But we do have Pignata, Oakes, Wills, and Riley all in the race here. And the revs are rising. We're getting ready to go. Green flag flying just about now. And the Grand Tour is away and rolling. Excellent starts from the KSR McLarens. Damon Mulqueen matching them a little bit. Pignata not able to get off the line as quickly as he wanted, and he gets rear-ended by Robert Henry. Spins off the track. Mulqueen spins as well. It's KSR 1 and 2. But probably not a huge fan of the way they did that, at least if you're talking about Mulqueen and Pignata.
Oh, my word. Well, how about that? Some fireworks once again with a small field to get things underway here tonight, as we're only half a lap into things. So that'll probably see a couple of decisions made up in the race control booth, I would suspect, as they work their way up to turn 6 for the first time now. And, AVR car around there.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Thomas
across
Riley.
the track. Whoo, all right. They're doing a good job avoiding him. Taylor Oakes and the McLaren off at Dandenong Road. Okay, this lap's chaotic.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Jeez.
That's for sure.
Wow. Okay. We got a bit to dissect already. Only one lap into the Grand Tour action. Looked like things were going to be so orderly coming into turn 1, and then it all just exploded. So the running order here at the end of lap 1 we will talk about shortly, because this is what happened coming into turn 1. It just looks to me like was that Pluck who got into the rear? I'm not sure, but either way, big spin for the 888 of Thomas Riley, and look at how close they came. Taylor Oakes obviously taking avoiding action, clipped the curb, and off into the gravel trap he went. So, righto. Oh dear, it's continued back on live pictures. Riley spun again at the first chicane. So, the running order right now: Robert Henry, Matthew Pluck, 1 and 2. Sean Linsell and Brady Baldwin are the two attacking Mercedes behind. Linton Wills and Mark Noble, 5th and 6th. Mulqueen and Pignata have fallen back to 7th and 8th.
Yeah, it's been just what I call a little bit chaotic, yeah, that's for sure, as you might try and finally get a semblance of order into all of this one here. As the drivers try and settle, you can see there, that would be Linsell and Baldwin now trying to really hassle Pluck for second place. On board here, though, just a little further back, which is with Linton Wills. He's also on Zoom with us here tonight. He's a little wide at turn 1 and up and over the curb, which means Mark Noble will appear there on the left-hand side of the screens as through turns 2 and 3 around the outside thanks to the rough run. But crisscross from Wills, try and get the spot back at 4. Gets pinched, though, of course, having to leave the space for Wills there on the outside in the number 63 Porsche Cayman. So place will exchange at the end of that little sequence.
Yeah, Mulqueen and Pinata there are rapidly chasing as these two battle over 5th position. Mark Noble, once again, doing a good job early on, like he did last night in this Porsche Cayman 718. Rare that we actually see that machine racing on a SimSpeed TV broadcast. It's usually used as a safety car for V8SCOPS events, but of course it is available to drive for racers as well. All right, the battle continues here between Mulqueen and Matthew Pignata, who's immediately going into the pits there to take his compulsory pit stop, and I think that's a smart thing to do there for Matthew, getting put out early by that unfortunate contact from behind into turn 1. You might as well get your stop done and try and go long to the end.
Yep, checking in here with our fight for second as Wills has now gone around the outside of turn 2 on Mark Noble. Meanwhile, so an exchange once again there. It's brought Damon Mulqueen into the equation here at the start of lap 4. Here's which 8.42, lead 63, lead 42 up the straight. You can see here that, actually, thanks to the slipstream here, the balance performance seems to be fairly well sorted out here in this class these days, as we also see on the lower third, independent of this scrap, Matthew Pignata, one of the first who has come to the pit lane. Get hit one of his compulsory stop done is wide for Wills. That'll see him, well, side by side, only here with, pardon me, that's Noble there, Reese, and he'll hold on in deep at 11, able to get across for turn 12 there ahead of the Porsche.
Yeah, but you see as now Mulqueen commits to the stop, that's the reason why Pignata decided to come in. You saw that Mulqueen's pace saw him catch up to those two right before he came into the pits, and I think Pignata wanted to lose as little time in traffic as possible. Let's check back in here with the top 3. Robert Henry out in the distance. I'll correct myself from before. It was Robert Henry who went into Matthew Pignata, who then slid into Damon Mulqueen at turn 1. So there's potentially a race control decision hanging over our race leader's head, but Pluck is battling hard with Linsell for second place. Baldwin, meanwhile, looks like has taken his pit stop, and he is back into 6th spot, and actually has the quickest pit stop so far.
Yeah, that is good to see that. I'm just having a look at things here. Well, the two Synergy Mercedes in Baldwin and Mulqueen both pretty even as Noble almost runs into the back of Linton Wills at turn 9. Thankfully, nothing happening there as our top 3 look like they're all going to stay out on the track, and that would be the case. But that Porsche nearly put a dint in the rear bumper of the 842 Mercedes. Rather lucky that didn't happen in that case.
Oh yeah, I've just seen it on my end. Watch this on board from Noble. Wow. Yeah, thank goodness for anti-lock brakes on GT4 cars. It would have extended the braking distance a little bit, I think, but it's better than locking up and spearing straight into your rival. Anyway, Mark Noble has decided to come into the pits after that little adventure. And now we wait to see what Henry, Pluck, Linsell, Wills, and Thomas Riley do. We have half of our field having taken a stop so far. Riley, of course, racing in virtual reality and continuing to be a good representative of Alpha Venturi racing out there. Those AVR Mercedes are definitely looking quick.
Yeah, looking solid, that's for sure. And yeah, keeping out front, keeping out of trouble for now. Well, pardon me, I should say, somewhat keeping out of trouble. It's been definitely, well, for Thomas Riley's case, it unfortunately came a little unstuck on lap 1, but has got back going and hasn't really been in any issues of yet. So, yeah, we'll see, hopefully, that they can continue to put good numbers on the board as Taylor Oakes there on screen, which I just try to hunt down a paint for him because apparently somehow I've misplaced one. That should be a purple McLaren for the Orbit Motorsport driver. But I'll try and find that, and we can actually fix. Apparently, it's like the case of the vanishing paint race with regards to Taylor there somehow. it disappears into the ether in between each and every round, it seems.
Yeah, that's very odd indeed. Wondering if you've got your own little Moriarty out there, going in and removing paints in between rounds. Evil chuckle as he does it. Anyway, Linsell still trying to chase down Matthew Pluck for second here, but it seems that Pluck has gotten a bit more pace in that McLaren in the last couple of laps. Do any of our top three decide to go for the pit lane? No, they don't. It's going to be the end of lap 7, and we are reaching 15 minutes to go in this race in 1.5 minutes time. Comparing lap times, they're pretty well matched. Robert Henry only a 10th quicker than Matthew Pluck, and Linsell smack dab in between them in terms of lap times, so it's a bit of a deadlock at the moment.
So we do get the last lap times on the screen, indeed, yeah. When there's only a 10th, if that, in it for our top three, yeah, all pretty even and squared away there at the moment. Although, crucially, Robert Henry, the slightly the fastest of the bunch. That will certainly play into his favour there, because help him eke out a tiny little bit. And the fact that he pulled about a 10th on Pluck there in second, that's also important to the equation as well.
Fastest lap, meanwhile, goes to Matthew Pignata, down in 8th place at the moment, but showing that he has what it takes to win here. Getting a replay, meanwhile, of Robert Henry, and this was at turn 1. Oh, a little deep that time. So that's the reason why the gap between the top three equalized just then. Very easy to do here at turn 1. Even in a car with anti-lock brakes, it's very easy to overshoot. Have a look at the previous lap times this time around. Pluck managing to run a bit faster than Linsell, and looks like Robert Henry, unfortunately, not quite up to scratch. He's going to have to get some pace and consistency back there if he wants to protect himself from his teammate.
Yeah, that's not great there from Robert Henry there in the lead. All of a sudden, looks to be a little off the money there. There's a headlight flash coming out of a Pluck there. That was a little trick in the books there. Get attention to himself, get Henry looking backwards rather than looking forwards there and all of that. But at the end of the day, looks to be the case. Gap has stabilised a little bit on this lap, I'd say, Reese. It looks like it's been around 7 odd tenths, but then again, just there through 11 and 12, Pluck cuts a little bit more out of things. Back with Damon Mulqueen on the replay, though, Reese. Here, turn 4 is going to come and bite him there on the exit. Or not, that was close.
There was at least a very slight graze of the wall. That's a wall that is the favourite spot of many drivers to have contact. But, yeah, for the time being, Mulqueen seems to be working himself out. Mulqueen has taken his stop, and we can confirm that he made contact with the wall. Here's the onboard view of that incident we just saw. Boop, just a little tap.
Close, but just enough to rub up there a little bit.
This is interesting as well, because I'm looking at the pit stop times, and you can change either 2 tires or all 4 in your pit stop, but you have to change at least 2. I'm getting the feeling that Brady Baldwin and Damon Mulqueen only changed 2 tires, because Matthew Pignata, Taylor Oakes, and Mark Noble, having all taken their pit stops, about 5 to 6 seconds slower pit stop times. So we'll see what kind of difference that makes between Mulqueen and Pignata, both driving the Mercedes, but Pignata potentially all fresh rubber on that car.
Yeah, that does suggest a bit there. That's for sure.
And have a look at the times that Pignata is setting. Like, he's doing high 111s at the moment. He improved the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. He is catching up to Mulqueen. Looks to be about 6 tenths last time by.
There's something fierce out of that Alpha Venturi Mercedes. That indeed will be one to watch in the closing parts of the race here. Just makes you wonder, is Mulqueen just not settled with the car or something? Not quite to what he'd like. A couple of questions there, that's for sure, as to what the play is for him. But still got about 2 seconds back, although, again, lost another 0.6 on the last lap or thereabouts to Pignata. So this rate of gap, even on that last lap only, happens, and he's going to have to worry about that 4:45 in about 3 laps.
I'm thinking Mulqueen either changed right side tyres or he changed the rears, because of course these cars are rear wheel drive. Because I looked at the way they both went through turn 4 there, and I could see that Pignata's car certainly has a bit more bite in the front end. You can almost see it visually as the cars go through. Mulqueen focusing on exits, and seems that he's got that sorted, but Pignata still gaining time on him corner by corner, and it looks to be the entries where he is gaining it. Let's see what the lap times are this time around. For Damon Mulqueen across the line, 1:12.57. Matthew Pignata, 1:12.19. So pace has dropped a little bit for Matthew, but he's still quicker. Oh, there we go. Race control with our first penalty of the night, and no surprise to see that it's for Robert Henry. That is for contact on lap 1 with Pignata that took him and Mulqueen out of the top 2 positions coming into turn 1.
Yeah, unfortunately, not what we want to see, but a slam dunk that probably did need to come all the same. 15 seconds will mean that will put Robert Henry a fair ways. Actually, we'll put him back in what could be 3rd. We'll have to see where these drivers cycle out with Brady Baldwin, the leader of us, to pit there in P5. So that's what's up there with him. Because we do have our field still spread. Thomas Riley, the other car, also that needs to come into the pits there out of what is currently P6. Unfortunately, we'll see the 888 slip down to what should probably be the back of the field. In that case, as we'll show you there indeed, the last pit stop lap. So basically really a case of a bunch of early pitters and everyone else here going on to lap 13 or in the midst of lap 13 and sticking it out here, at least this one by.
Lead gap has closed. Robert Henry will have received news of that penalty. Will he go into the pits this time? No, he won't. But Matthew Pluck and Sean Linsell will make their way into the lane. So this is a battle of the pit crews now for what is going to be the race win once Robert Henry serves his penalty. Let's see then. Both up on the jacks. Linsell and Pluck pretty much at the exact same time, and we'll keep our eye here on Brady Baldwin, who pitted early. Matthew Pluck is away. Sean Linsell still up on the jacks, so Linsell is going for all 4 tyres. Pluck, I think, only changed 2. And so Pluck makes his way out of the lane, but Brady Baldwin will overtake Sean Linsell for 2nd place.
There you go. Overcut working in this time, which is good to see. Well, good to see the strategy variation, giving us a bit of variety and mixing things up. So, just trying to look at where that should cycle Robert Henry to. I'd still say effective 4th. Actually, no, he might even still a little bit further back in. Just really need to see him come into the pits. Indeed, he will come in now, so that will finally be able to answer where his post-race penalty that he currently has sitting on him to cycle him back to.
Yes. So, I'm unsure if that's a time penalty added onto the end of the race or if he can serve that at the pit stop. That's unclear to me, but we will see.
Through straight away, so
Pluck. Yeah, okay. So it's going to be added on at the end of the race.
And
Henry,
yep.
Yeah, Henry comes out, and he is going to be ahead of Matthew Pluck by a bit of a margin, but Pluck, of course, with a bit more time on those tyres, has warmed them up a little more now. So let's see if there's a pass for the lead as Riley comes in to take his pit stop as well. The field is cleansed, and with Henry out there right now, it looks like he is going to fall back to 6th place behind Matthew Pignata. Once that penalty is applied.
Yeah, now we can finally sort of see how the order is sitting. And indeed, now is a bit more significant and therefore puts things a little bit more back, well, looks them roughly back as they should be, I would say. Indeed, puts him right behind the car that he made contact with. So as far as penalties go, it's about just right, based on where they're at currently. Is focusing here with Pignata, actually another one of our drivers who's providing us with camera feed for this evening here in the Grand Tour race as they work to the end of the lap once more. In here, 11 and 12. You can see obviously using the curb at 11 and trying to really open turn 12, but not really go on the curb there. And was that moment there for Pignata? Just maybe sucked in towards the kink there as they come across the timing line and having to actually dart back out away from the wall?
Potentially. Easy to do. Coming out of the final turn at Sandown. Time that he set was still a little quicker than Mulqueen, but by nowhere near as much as it was when he had just come out of the pits. So I think the grip level has sort of equalized between these two Mercedes. It's going to be a proper battle between Mulqueen and Pignata for what will ultimately be 4th place.
I'll see here how things going also at the end of those, because Robert Henry has now been caught by Matthew Pluck on the track. Given it's a post-race penalty, if he's a little slow here warming the car back up, would think he needs to probably just let Pluck go, just in case Brady Baldwin's got a late turn of steam there just in the background of shot as they come down the front straight. Don't want to hold up Pluck here when he isn't going to be encumbered by a post-race penalty. And there we go, doors left wide open at turn 1, and Pluck will be able to sail up the inside on the exit there to take the race lead, both on the paper after the race, but I'll make it official here on the track as well first of all.
Indeed, and the battle has closed up further between Mulqueen and Pignata as well on the bottom of your screen. Pignata was right on Mulqueen's rear bumper coming out of the final corner. Did lose a bit of time down the straight, but as close as it's ever been between our two drivers who started on the front row of the grid. And it looks like the KSR McLarens, they were able to make that exchange I'd say at a pretty leisurely pace, because Brady Baldwin is simply too far behind to really make an impression on them at this time. But if the pace does increase there for the number 10, then Robert Henry's in a good position to potentially back into him and keep Matthew Pluck safe in the race victory.
Yeah, that might just be the play here. Although the gap's still at around 2 seconds between Henry and Baldwin, and 2.7 between Matthew Pluck and Baldwin. I don't think that'll be too much of a concern yet, anyways. And based on lap times, they're close enough per lap that shouldn't be an option for Baldwin to hunt things down. Which really means that leaves us with this here, the final spot in the top 5, as Pignata has, ranged up onto the back of Mulqueen. Now just needs to try and find a way to set something up, it seems, because these two have been looking like they're getting a little stuck together for the time being. But we'll see here what we get at the end of, well, not the end of that straight, but down the hill into turn 9. Fairly even, I'd say, there, Reese. A little wide, perhaps, from Mulqueen at the top of the hill. Although not close enough was Pignata to make a lunge at the corner there, Danny Dong.
And once again, it seems to be the entries that belong to Pignata and the exits that belong to Mulqueen. You see that Pignata just had a little slide over the curb there and lost some crucial time coming down the start-finish straight. So Mulqueen is safe for the time being. About 2.5 minutes were left when they crossed the line, and so I'm thinking it's going to be 2 laps to go, potentially 3 at this point. So time rapidly running out for Pignata to make this move, and oh dear, that has screwed him there, and he knows it. Went a little deep into turn 4 and just smacked the wall. So some damage now potentially on that AVR Mercedes, and the battle is over for the time being.
Oh, that's unfortunate there that that's happened, but it's back down to back on around a second. So yeah, it would take a mistake from Mulqueen to close things up. Come to the line, and yeah, no white flag in the hand of Barney there. Stand, and that checks out. We're a couple of seconds clear of the timer, so it will be a 21-lap race here for our first in the Grand Tour. There's Lyndon Wills and Taylor Oakes looking like they might start scrapping here with 2 to go for 7th place. 6/10 between them here as they come up to the last couple of corners. Do have both drivers on Zoom with us, which is nice to see here as they round turns 11, 12, and then that kink that counts as 13 has come across the line here. Let's see what can Taylor do as the car winds up to speed down towards turn number 1.
We can see that Oakes is definitely able to carry more speed through the corners there, and on the previous lap he took a full second out of Linton Wills. That's pretty incredible pace from that Orbit Motorsport McLaren. Let's see then what they can do as the white flag is about to fly for our race leaders. Matthew Pluck and Robert Henry will cross the line 1 and 2, but of course, reminder, Henry still has that 15-second penalty hanging over his head. He will not be classified in that position. As things stand, things have calmed down at the front of the field. The battle is truly between Linton Wills and Taylor Oakes for 7th place, and it looks like that will remain 7th place. With Robert Henry's penalty, he should slot in between them in the official results, but here we go. A little narrow into the final corner for Linton Wills, and oh, Brady Baldwin's had an issue. Brady Baldwin at the chicane at the start of the lap. That's unfortunate there for him. He has given up the position to Sean Linsell. So it's all gone wrong here for our second Synergy car at the end.
Yeah, and Mulqueen and Pignata too, who they've both actually caught up to Linsell quite nicely here towards the end, but unfortunately just not quite soon enough to make much of it here as our leading 2 from Kiwi Sim Racing will round the final turn. It will indeed be Matthew Pluck who will take the race across the line first. Robert Henry set to drop back into position at number 6 if Brady Baldwin, and yeah, he will just be inside the marker there as Linsell will be promoted to 2nd and Damon Mulqueen to take the last step on the actual podium. Nice little scrap here to the end though at Dandenong Road, Reese, as Linton Wills now having to go full defensive against Taylor Oakes. The Mercedes versus the McLaren here as we got just 2 proper turns to go. Can Taylor tries almost to get up the outside, I would have thought, to make it inside at 12, but no, it will be trying to get a straighter run and a better drive off. He's almost getting there, but going to have to settle in behind Linton Wills there. Good to see that Linton was enjoying that one to the end by looks things, as we'll go to the replay and check out what unfortunately got Brady Baldwin a bit unsettled.
Yeah, it looks like the curb in the right hander got the car unsettled and it just swung around on him as he turned in for the right. No, for the left, sorry. And ultimately, that's going to put him back down to 6th spot. But actually, he should stay just ahead of Robert Henry. Look at the gap. That's incredible there. Brady Baldwin, 14.955 behind our race leader. Robert Henry finishing 4 tenths behind, so finishing 5 tenths behind. So it'll only be a gap of half a second between Brady Baldwin and Robert Henry for P6 at the end of that.
Yeah, it was close, but it'll do, indeed. The gap there also between Linton Wills and Taylor Oakes, only a tenth and the tiniest bit of change as well there in the scrap for 7th. Mark Noble in our lone Porsche Cayman. GT4 brings it home in 8th place. Thomas Riley, unfortunately, looping himself on lap 1 and again as well, will have to settle for 10th in that race. And that was our field here for the opening race of the Grand Tour. And we'll now take that finishing order, and that'll be what we do for the grid here in the second race of the night. Basically, copy-paste potentially, but nevertheless, could be a little different as to how things go. Hopefully we won't have any issues at turn 1 this time that really shuffle things up for us. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
All right, then. Let's take the start here. Of course, with that 15-second time penalty, Henry will be classified in 7th for race 1, but he still keeps that second place starting spot for race 2 alongside Matthew Pluck, who starts on pole. Sean Linsell and Damon Mulqueen are going to line up in 3rd and 4th. Pignata starts in 5th spot alongside Brady Baldwin, who will want to make a better run of it this time. Linton Wills will start ahead of Taylor Oakes, but I think the battle between those two will continue for some time, with Mark Noble and Thomas Riley rounding out our 10-car field for this one. All right. Now, what I saw was that the KSR guys have sorted out their standing starts here. They definitely get a slightly better run off the line than everyone else, so I would expect them to try and keep this lead into the opening corner. We'll have to wait and see, though, as the revs rise, and 25 minutes will begin right now. And away they go. Once more, beautiful start. It looks like a stall, unfortunately, for Linton Wills. He falls back to the rear of the field as they come into turn 1. And it looks like a lot more orderly through the first turn this time. But Sean Linsell right on the back of the KSR McLarens. That's a big dive, meanwhile, from Brady Baldwin, who goes off the circuit there and defends from Taylor Oakes. Back onto the back straight now. This is where the power comes in.
Yeah, although in saying that, these cars seem to be fairly balanced, even though we've got a strong contingent of Mercedes AMG GT4s, which look, they are a bit, of course, they are a bit of the bruisers. But the McLarens here, mid-engine, twin-turbo V8s of their own, certainly no mean feat, as Baldwin's an absolute shocker off of turn 4, independent to what we caught there at the start. Slow down was the call, and that now puts him at the back of the field. It's a 5.5 second spread towards the end of lap 1 as Pignata now really trying to eye off Linsell here, trying to make his way forward. I mean, his pace in that last race really does suggest that he'll be looking at trying to go after our KSR McLaren. Gio here is looking out the rear of our race leader across the line. Now has a lap led to his name here to start off race 2. Does Matthew Pluck, but you can see indeed got the drivers behind, looking aggressive and threatening as Pignata there, really trying to shape something on Linsell, but Mulqueen also in the background. Top 5 starting to compress here on lap 2.
Yeah, good fight between these 5, and Pignata staying well away from the wall on the exit of turn 4, trying to get a move done on Sean Linsell. Damon Mulqueen has actually fallen behind a little bit more in this lap, but we'll see if he manages to get the pace up once more. Linsell just takes the straighter line through the turn there to try and defend from Pignata, who is right on the pace here. That's the end of lap 2, which means that the pit window opens right now. Does anyone decide to take an early pit stop from here?
Well, not if you're in the lead pack. That seems to be the case. And in fact, you can even see our entire field still in one shot here at this stage of the race. No one going for the lane as Pignata pulls to the inside of Linsell down the front stretch.
Oh, that's deep.
Late on the brakes to really try and sign and seal that one up. But it's going to make him vulnerable if Linsell can hang around the outside. No, not able to get enough overlap there. So they will sort that one out in favour of the 445. And actually gets a nice run through the 2-3-4 complex there to not really be under threat from Linsell, and also put the pressure a little bit back up towards our top 2, though. Got about half a second to find to get in behind Robert Henry proper there, it seems.
Well, you didn't see it on the actual broadcast feed, but I did see Pignata flashing his lights behind Robert Henry. He is signaling to the KSR McLarens that he wants to race for this win. And now, Sean Linsell will try his best to stick with him. Remember, Pignata started on pole position for race 1. He was the fastest driver in qualifying. In terms of 1 lap, he's got it. Our race leader comes in, Matthew Pluck, the first driver to take a pit stop, as we get a replay on board here of the light flash there from Matthew Pignata.
You just remember what happened in race 1 moment there, and a chance to signal that Pignata indeed coming back at for the lead with full force. So wait to see here how our first 2 takers to the pits go, and it's going to be 13.7. McLarens are ridiculously quick in their pit stops. I don't quite know what it is. The fact that through presumably no fault of Damon Mulqueen's, he's lost nearly 2 seconds just waiting on the tyre change. Just really seems a little crazy to me, actually, that the cars change tyres that much differently, but one would hope that there's a method behind the madness in all of it there. What we can say, though, is on this particular lap here, without the slipstream to help Robert Henry, Pignata has found a little something extra, and now right inside of that McLaren, and even get to the start-finish line.
Beautiful exit from Matthew Pignata. The traction of that Mercedes looks supreme. And up the inside into turn 1 he will go. Good amount of space given between the 2 cars. And Robert Henry gives up the race lead. Well done there from Matthew Pignata. Now he can put his eyes forward and focus on trying to redeem what happened in race 1. Linton Wills also in the pit lane with Taylor Oakes. These guys battled hard in the first race, but of course Will's a bit further behind thanks to his poor start. Taylor Oakes completes his pit stop, and it looks like both of them are going for all 4 tyres. Pluck, meanwhile, out of the pits, and he is trying his best to catch back up to Mark Noble. Henry, Linsell, and Pignata up front as we get our pit stop time comparison there between Pluck and Mulqueen. It's a point that I make often, but I think pit stop times are often defined by how well you pull up in the box, how well you hit your marks. If you're off by a few tyre widths on your way into the pits, it can actually take your virtual pit crew some time to get the tyre change started. So that may be what the difference was there. Riley and Noble coming into the pits.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that, I think, at play, although it's not been ever super well defined. It's a little deep from Henry at turn 2, compromises turn 3. He was able to get that resolved by turn 4 at least. But that'll just give Pignata a little bit more of a breather. Here, you can see there goes the timing updates. You can see it loses him nearly 0.3 of a second to the current race leader, as Noble with the 2 tyre change going to beat Riley out of the lane, who's opted for a 4 tyre stop. Taylor Oakes, though, will beat them all out, as Taylor actually diving out of the way to make sure no issues on pit exit there, as of course the cars do blend back out into where you sort of naturally just leave the car to run down the front straightaway, of course, on that right side of the road. Crucially, they all stay on the lead lap, but for Linton Wills, it's not by a huge amount. He's about, looking at this, about 20 seconds ahead of your race leaders or thereabouts, based on where they're going. And despite that being what I thought was a rough opening sector race, redemption through sectors 2 and 3, it seems, for that KSR McLaren, as he puts the fastest lap down on lap 6 of this one so far.
Yeah, and of course, sectors 2 and 3, very dependent on the slipstream. Of course, it is defined by that long back straight and the run also into the final chicane too. So Henry trying to keep himself within a good margin of Matthew Pignata, still within slipstream range at this point. We'll have to wait and see, though, what Pignata does in the final sector. You can see how hard he is pushing, and he just keeps it within track limits there. Every time I've seen Pignata go into turn 6, the fast left-hander across the top of the hill, he does seem to take a few stabs at the steering, and the rear end does look loose. So Pignata evidently driving with a very aggressive car on the front end, which is arguably the best car possible for Sandown with so many sharp corners. Meanwhile, have a look at this. Mark Noble and Thomas Riley side by side, and it looks like Riley is going to pass him on the exit of turn 4. Evidently not the best of runs for Mark Noble, who it looked like had a very rough sector 1.
Either that, or he may have actually opted to give that one up there a little bit. As while all of this is happening up and down the field, Brady Baldwin will make it just out top 3 who are yet to pit. We'll see where can the number 10 machine come out. 2 tyre changes right on what Damon Mulqueen did for his tyres in the first decimal place. So that says to me, strong there. Just even for Pluck's case, and it will cycle Baldwin back out in position number 6, third of those to pit in this race, as Riley and Noble still close together on the road.
Yeah, interesting little exchange there. It looked like Riley had a poor run through the final corner, actually had a slide, and Noble almost went past him, but decided to lift out of the throttle and stay behind. So Noble apparently not looking to race too hard at the moment. This is what happened to Thomas Riley, just wide there. Fronts were scrubbing, and Noble goes for the inside line, but yeah, he blended back in behind. Pignata is supreme in terms of pace right now. Look at that, 111.6. That is almost on par with his qualifying pace. He is incredibly fast right now. And remember, he hasn't taken his pit stop yet. If we look back to Matthew Pluck, who was the first driver to take a pit stop, he is not on that pace at all. Pluck has actually been setting mid 1 minute 12s for the past few laps. So I think that undercut has not worked out for KSR number 51.
No, that doesn't seem to be the case. Indeed, just if Pignata can put a couple more of those in the bank, just to make sure that he can get the overcut to work. Because I think this is the thing, is just with this pit stops, the way they seem to favour the McLarens, just needs to probably needs a couple of really good ones, and 11.8 from him on that last time, which means he stretches the margin a little more to Robert Henry directly behind as well. Just going to have to wait a while for, of course, our drivers here who have pitted to come by and see what the number is like for Matthew Pluck. Because, yeah, another 2-3 of these, then I think Pignata can come in with some confidence that he'll be able to come out and properly contest for the race lead straight away. Pluck, I believe, across the line. Yep. Did a 1 minute 12.6 again.
He did, and it looks like Sean Linsell might lose a position here to Damon Mulqueen. No, to Brady Baldwin. Sorry, my apologies. Wrong Synergy Mercedes. You notice there, as we flicked to Linsell, he had an incredibly slow start out of the pits. It looked like a reasonable 4-tyre stop there for Linsell, but the car stalled on him a little bit coming out of the box. So that has crucially cost him in his battle with Brady Baldwin. Meanwhile, Linton Wills down at Dandenong Road, a little unstable, catches the curb on the inside, and unfortunately, that's what happens when you go a bit too deep into the most crucial braking zone on the track.
That curb, as you come down the hill into turn 9, you touch that. It just seems to be it's a curb of no touchy.
It's an incredibly harsh curb, isn't it?
It just completely ruins any braking performance you have in the car. Because all of a sudden, just your inside front tyre has suddenly lost consistent contact with the road. And we saw it last night in both categories. More so crucially the flat sixes, of course, with no ABS even here tonight. Still got ABS. Well, that's going to completely still throw the system for a loop and just completely wreck any braking performance into turn 9. And it's the one corner you really need to be on it, especially if you are pushing. Our top two going to stay out a little longer again here. Nana back into the 11s.
Have a look at the last laps there. Matthew Pignata still in the 1 minute 11 bracket, but Robert Henry back to 112.4. And a little bit more on the point of braking for turn 9. Yeah, ABS or no ABS, if the tyre is in the air, it's not gripping the road, obviously, and it doesn't provide any braking performance. So that's another reason why you want to avoid that curb. Matthew Pluck versus Damon Mulqueen now. Both of these drivers have taken their pit stops, and Mulqueen, of course, a little bit slower on the stop than Pluck was. A second slower on both stop and lane time, but have a look at the pace. Mulqueen took 4/10 out of Pluck on that last lap. So it looks like the Mercedes is the better race car than the McLaren at the moment.
Yeah, the Mulqueen able to really hunt that down there is quite a powerful sort of statement at the moment. Pluck again, yeah, still that mid 1 minute 12 times, as Robert Henry will opt to come to the pit lane, try and undercut Pignata at least. Now this will be crucial to see what this looks like, is just needing to find his box there towards the end of the lane. Now, this will be a crucial test because he was about, 1.5 back or so off of Pignata. And where Henry comes out here, compared to Pluck, will sort of give us an indication of where we can possibly expect we can expect Pignata as well. Slow stop though for Henry, so this is going to be a good marker potentially for us with the Mercedes, and by that metric I'd be saying the 445 should still have the race lead there, because look at the margin. In fact, Robert Henry's got there up, that's a good 3 odd seconds to turn 1.
Yeah, that is. I mean, Pignata's stint after he's come into the pits has not quite been on pace. So there's ever increasing distance now between the KSR McLarens. Henry's going to have to wait a little bit for those tyres to properly come up to temperature, but it looked like he certainly had the measure of Pluck pretty much all night, aside from keeping the positions stable in race 1, having that exchange for the first race win. Meanwhile, here is Pignata in the lane, last car to take a stop. Now, let's see what the pit stop time is. Looking for about 15 seconds, and it's long. He's changing all 4 tires. Henry out of the final corner. Will Pignata lose the race lead out of this? He's still at pit speed limit, crosses the line, and he is going to fall back behind Mulqueen and Pluck.
He's got 8.
Yeah, you can guess what he was saying there. Oh dear. Yeah, obviously very unhappy with how that pit stop went. So, unfortunately for Matthew Pignata, only 8.5 minutes left, and he has 4.2 seconds to make up on Robert Henry and 2 other cars to get through besides. I don't see him getting back to the race win.
It's going to be a tough ask. But, and realistically, if this had happened 3 laps ago, I think maybe we're talking something there, Reese, because it'd be over 11, 12 minutes of racing left. But yeah, with 8.5 when he came out of the pits, and less than 8 now by the time he's at Dandenong Road already, he's got to get these tyres warmed back up. Yeah, this is going to be quite the interesting test. I mean, gap is only 4 seconds to Henry. But as you said, indeed, got to clear multiple cars, Mulqueen and Pluck, before he's even got a chance at fighting for the win. 7.5 minutes across the line, so I'd be saying 7 laps to go, because indeed we are on once again for a 21-lap race here to round out the Grand Tour for this evening.
All right, so let's keep an eye on how quick Matthew Pignata is on this lap, and whether or not he'll be able to at least catch up to Pluck and Mulqueen to try and grab a spot on the podium. Considering how much Pluck and Mulqueen are battling right now, I think they'll be slowing each other up a bit. Pluck was the quicker of the two on the last lap, and Pluck was actually the fastest car on track that last time by, 112.2. Of course, considering that lap was when Pignata made his pit stop. So, into Dandenong Road they come, almost bumper to bumper at the apex. Mulqueen trying to use the traction of the Mercedes, but it doesn't seem to be working out for him in that short blast between Dandenong Road and the final chicane. How does it go onto the start-finish straight here? The end of the 15th lap of the race. 112.5 from Robert Henry, 112.3 from Pluck, 112.1 from Mulqueen, 111.8 from Matthew Pignata, and Mulqueen has a look at Pluck.
He's been almost there, Mulqueen, now for some laps, and maybe going to be feeling the pressure with Pignata only really a couple, or less than 2 seconds now behind for what could be second place in all of this. There is Mulqueen. He almost inside 2/10, pretty much had the nose of the Mercedes in the bumper there of the McLaren. Oh, hang on there. Just a moment from playing. You listen back to that one there on the radio real quick. Just listen out for what he just said there for you again. From Matthew Pluck, this was.
Okay. While that's happening, battle continues between Brady Baldwin and Sean Linsell for what is now 5th place on the road. Both of these drivers having not had the best of runs through the pit cycle. Sean Linsell with a longer stop and not having the best of runs, as it's defensive now for Matthew Pluck coming into turn 1. Mulqueen piling on the pressure, and this is continuing to give an advantage to Matthew Pignata, who again sets a high 111.
Yeah, and with this fighting, this is exactly what he needs for some positions. Although it just absolutely verifies the fact that he will not get a chance to cut through for the race win. And the fact that we do have ourselves this fight at the very front of the field. We're also there between Linsell and Baldwin for the reigning spot in the top 5 as well. So there we go. 2, 3, 4 fly through the frame, as that was wide from Mulqueen, but he's middle of the road just enough. No way past for Pignata, but now he should have himself 4 laps to size up something. Although this actually might only go to 20 laps, looking at the clock being at 4 minutes to go as our leader rounds. Actually, no, we're at 4 minutes to go. Yeah, definitely still 4 laps. My bad. Let's think about that one correctly there. So, let's see here what Pignata can do. Another 11, but it's an 11.9.
Oh, Linsell, slow down.
Indeed, so, can confirm.
Brady Baldwin is now by, and I'm getting a feeling that happened on the run down to Dandenong Road. And looking at it on my end, it did not, interestingly. It was earlier on in the lap. Was it? When did that happen for Linsell? Okay, so we found it. Linsell was having a run at Baldwin into turn 1, but yeah, unfortunately, it seems that the slowdown happened here at the final chicane, going up the inside and, yeah, beyond the blue and white curb. That is a slam dunk slowdown from iRacing's automated system. Well, battle for second is right on it now. Matthew Pluck trying to keep 2 Mercedes behind him of Mulqueen and Pignata, and Matthew is absolutely reeling them in.
Problem is, though, on that particular occasion, didn't quite get the optimum drive off the turn 12, which just means that he drops the tiniest bit back. 12 zeros from Pluck and Mulqueen on that last lap, getting their houses back in order. Still an 11.9 for Pignata, but it therefore means it's maybe a 10th and a half that he gains on them at best, as you see. Throw it up through 2 and 3 and get settled for 4. See here, these drivers again get close, but obviously don't want to actually use the curb on the apex. And on this particular occasion, looks like the runs off the corner. We're fairly even from these three, so don't think we'll be seeing anything down at Dandenong. A real disaster. That turn 6 comes our way. And Mulqueen's wide, Reese. But he's going to cover that one off fully now from Pignata. So no way through there for the 445 yet, even with the wider entry. Too short of a run to turn 11 here to set something up proper.
Yeah, Pignata's going to have to focus on the exit here. Try and get the run down the start-finish straight, but once again, you see that Mulqueen is level with him on that exit. They have both lost time to Matthew Pluck. No white flag this time, and with 2 minutes to go when they cross the line, looks like next lap is going to be the white flag. All right, both Mercedes a little bit deep into the first turn. They both ran about half a car width wide of the apex. Mulqueen versus Pignata. If things were a little different, this could have been the battle for the race 1 win. And Pignata once again finds himself in the position of being behind Mulqueen towards the end of the race, and he wants to try and avoid another tap with the wall on the exit of turn 4. He's going to be focusing on traction. He's going to be focusing on applying the power as best he can, trying to unsettle Mulqueen into corners like this through 6, 7, and 8. Braking. Almost changes line a little bit. Mulqueen a bit deep. Pignata trying to find some space to get alongside.
But no space available, or at least not able to be sorted out as they've come round the last couple of corners again, and there is the white flag from Barney. So these drivers have got themselves one final circuit of Sandown in which to figure something out here. Otherwise, it looks like we might be settled on the positions in this order with the pressure that Pignata is putting on Mulqueen. I do believe our KSR McLarens have just earned themselves a reprieve. If they can keep it on the straight and narrow here, Reese. Everyone handling the 2-3 chicane neatly enough and all fairly even. But that's close for Pignata. But again, the initial drive there seems to be in favour of Mulqueen. Let's see, though, what we get defensive as we head towards turn 6 for the last time.
Slipstream for Matthew Pignata. He's not quite able to take advantage of it. The draft not very strong here, apparently. Is there going to be a dive at Dandenong Road? Mulqueen on the brakes. Pignata forced to the right-hand side. There was potential for an over-under there, but he couldn't take it. He was just too close to Damon Mulqueen. So I think that sealed it. Yeah, no desperate dive into the last couple of corners. That's going to be the order that they finish in. Robert Henry is going to take race 2 victory here. And with Matthew Pluck, it is a 1-2 for Kiwi Sim Racing. Mulqueen claims the last spot on the podium. Matthew Pignata will be wondering what might have been. And it looks like Brady Baldwin is going to win that fight with Sean Linsell for 5th place.
Indeed, my timing says so as well, but with half a second, that was all that was left in between it there for the final spot in the top 5. That certainly was one that, unfortunately, we couldn't quite take our eyes away from the front battle to have a check-in with that. It will be Taylor Oakes there ahead of Thomas Riley, 7th and 8th. Mark Noble and Linton Wills will be the last couple of drivers, well, the last 2 drivers, I should say, who will come across the line to round things out. Indeed, there we go with car across. Well, Barney's work there in the flag stand is done for the first half of our night race. And with that, we can bring up the race results here to round out the Grand Tour action from Sandown.
Henry from Pluck, a second between our leaders, with Damon Mulqueen, Matthew Pignata, and Brady Baldwin rounding out the top 5. Linsell, Oakes, Riley, Noble, and Wills all making it to the end, and all cars that started both races finished both races. Really awesome to see. No retirements. It would have been nice to see Daniel Stevens out there, but apparently he's been focusing hard on his V8 campaign here at Sandown, which is going to happen very soon here on SimSpeed TV. This is only half of the night's racing in V8SCOPS supports. We have the 2014 Australian touring cars getting out there very soon. Stay with us here, and we will certainly see why Sandown is called the home of horsepower. You're watching SimSpeed TV. This is the V8SCOPS supports at Sandown Motor Raceway, and we are getting ready to gear up for the V8s. This is one of the headline categories of V8SCOPS supports, always an excellent turnout in these events, and the perfect way to segue into the Sandown 500 happening tomorrow afternoon. I'm Reese Gardner, it's Dan Yeaman alongside me and Jay Kennedy on production. Well, Dan, we once again have seen that there's potential in the support categories for things to be either orderly or absolutely chaotic. I wonder what the V8s are going to bring us.
Well, we were expecting more racing with pit stops like we saw last night, but things have kind of happened this week.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we don't quite have an exact answer as to what it is or why it's happened, but it's also kind of why we almost want people, if you're available and able to give us a suggestion in the YouTube chat. What has happened is that all the Holden VF Commodores here in the V8 server, their air jacks are not working. We'd like to know what you think the reason is. And apparently, according to Director Jay Kennedy, best answer in the chat is what we'll put in the forums as the complaint to iRacing staff. So please, have at it. Because, yeah,
for sure. The more crazy, the better. We should get some good memeage out of that, and the perfect way to segue into the Max Bance Open, which we are going to be broadcasting pretty much right after this. So it's a long night here on SimSpeed TV, but it's going to be a fun one and a very active weekend indeed. We've got the majors coming up tomorrow morning in Perth at least, and around about lunchtime in the east of Australia for the Pacific region. And then, of course, we have the Sandown 500 tomorrow afternoon. So plenty of viewing of sim racing competition available on SimSpeed TV on YouTube, Facebook, and Kick this weekend. Qualifying is active for the V8s right now, and the half of the session has been done. No surprise to see that series leader Aaron Gilbert is currently on top of the timesheets, with Dan Stevens having quite a few adventures around this lap. It looks like he's decided to take to the pit lane for this one. And currently Stevens sitting in 6th spot. Shane Bowen, meanwhile, starting a hot lap. We're going to be able to see what a lap around Sandown is like in these 2014 Holden Commodores and Ford Falcons.
Yeah, getting a little bit of extra curb there nicely at turn 1. And then up over the curbs 2, 3. You can see not too much curb usage, it seems, from Bowen. Tries to keep it somewhat balanced as he then sets up for turn 4 in this run down the backstretch. Such a dominant feature of this course here at Sandown. Top speeds in cars like this, probably looking at around 270 kilometers an hour. See, with another car, I'll try and keep an eye on someone who's doing an actual flying lap and read that out. Maybe 260. As old dear indeed. Whilst I'm looking at top speeds and such, unfortunately Shane Bowen has found the weeds, so that lap is no more.
It is. Well, he'll have at least one more opportunity, I think, to set a hot lap on the board. We keep our eye here on Stefan Adams, Matt Haywood, sorry, who's just gone to the top of the timesheets. We saw Matt Haywood give a rollicking run in the flat 4s last night, and it looks like he is really bringing the fight to Aaron Gilbert at the front of this field. Bobby Jovanovic as well, active in this one for the Henry James Racing crew. Of course, a former teammate of mine, and I certainly had some good times with Bobby. Let's see what he can do coming out of turn 4. We have predicted lap time there on the lower third, up in the top right corner of it. 108.2. Looks like it's not going to be quite what he wants there, but he is gaining some time on the back straight. Let's see what the run down to Dandenong Road is like. Stays away from keeping track limits, but oh, that was a little bit unsettled on the way down through the braking zone. So I think Jovanovic won't be too happy with how this lap ends.
Couple of squirms there. It's all the way through 11. That will just about fry the lap, and indeed he will abort, and that should be his qualifying session done as a result. But critically, out of all of this, Matt Hayward has snuck to the provisional pole time of 107.8. See here, Ben Henniker looks to be on a push lap here, which would put him apparently in the mid 109s. For Henniker, is that going to be an improvement? A couple of tenths may be. Actually, make that almost 4 tenths exactly. So we'll gain him a spot. If it no, it didn't count. Oh, it did count. Yes, it did. My apologies. It just hasn't moved him a spot at all by the looks of things, unfortunately for him.
Movement for the last position in the top 5. Meanwhile, Dan Stevens just putting himself ahead of Dylan Gray and Shane Bowen. Jamie Davis crosses the line and improves from 17th to 13th. Good run for him at the very end of the session. And we'll see what Dion de Graaf can do in the other Simblax Commodore, Simblax Falcon, sorry. I just offended half of Australia with that little gaffe. Let's see what he can do coming down to Dandenong Road, across the rise, down the hill, keep it straight across the curb, avoid that curb on the left-hand side, and then slow right down for this very tight left-hander. Looking like a pretty clean lap here from Dion de Graaf as Gavin Cox improves and goes to 2nd place. Aaron Gilbert down to 3rd, and de Graaf has gone a bit too hard into 11 and 12. That's going to be the end of qualifying for the Simblax number 20.
Yeah, last couple of cars who will...
Stevens improves again.
Okay, he does indeed pick up another spot off of Jovanovic. So we've got 4 cars in the 107s and just under 2 tenths of a second covering all of them as Jamie Davis ran all the way to the wall. And we'll pick up 2 spots to go to 11th place there in the number 92 Autoserve Racing entry. That there is Dylan Gray aborting a lap. Peter Pavlovich has found the fence on the exit of turn 1, but that's going to do it for qualifying here, Reese, as the checkered flag will fly and cut us to the grid for race 1 and the V8s here tonight. And as we said there, Matt Hayward going to be on pole. But look at that there for Gavin Cox, who ends up in 2nd place, actually displacing Henry King as well. Now there, super tight margins for our top 3 here at the order of the grid. Dan Stevens there going to start alongside your championship leader and defending series champion. Jovanovic and Dylan Gray off of row number 3 there. Commodore leads Falcon on our 3rd row. Shane Bowen and Dion de Graaf 7th and 8th for the Cobalt Racing and Team Simblax Racing Machines there in the front half of the field, with the top 10 rounded out by Henry King and Peter Pavlovich in the number 2 and 216 respectively.
Starting in 11th place will be Jamie Davis. He is alongside Craig Mason, carrying the OKMS Media and Graphics livery. Colin Bruns is going to line up alongside Stefan Adams, 13th and 14th. Then we have Ben Henniker lining up alongside Joshua King. We have another real-life driver joining us. Former Super 2 and Super 3 driver Jonathan Bykoff is lining up in 17th alongside Scott Stevens. And the last 2 positions in the field will be taken up by Tim Nicol and Lachlan Horan in the number 83. All right. A standing start in V8 touring cars is always fantastic. Let's see how much smoke is put up by these drivers as they make their way down to turn 1. Hayward definitely showing that his pace is fantastic, and Gavin Cox sneaking into 2nd place right at the end. What can Aaron Gilbert do to fight back against them? Reminder that there is no compulsory pit stops here. There were going to be, but, of course, week 13 being week 13, there's evidently been a supply chain issue getting the air jacks to the Holden Commodore teams. All right, just a few seconds left until the revs fire up. And we have the lovely straight run into the first turn here at Sandown. Flames flying in the air out of the exhaust pipes. The green flag flies and we are away. Haywood gets a slightly better run than Gavin Cox, and that is a stonking start from Henry King. He's already making his way up the field into 8th spot as they go through turn 1 for the first time. Haywood comfortably in the lead from Aaron Gilbert, who got by Gavin Cox for second. Daniel Stevens trying to defend from Dylan Gray for 4th place. And that's not going to work out. Oh dear, that's involved Jovanovic as well, and the track is going to be blocked there for a second. Easy does it. Take avoiding action, everybody.
And multiple cars getting tripped up in it. Dion de Graaf clips there, not able to get away. As Dan Stevens was trying to stay out of the way, it seemed. So multiple cars with decent damage down the back straight. De Graaf has got a mechanical black flag. That will be his race practically done. As Pavlovich off at turn 9 in the background. And is that Haywood there as well? And
no,
Stefan Adams being told has also gone off with him there.
Cars. Yeah, that's a shame. And the fighting is continuing. The Biffo still active on the way down into the final corner. Dion de Graaf and Daniel Stevens coming together a little bit. De Graaf will make his way into the lane to get some repairs done. Unfortunately, the Falcon will be able to take repairs, but the Commodore won't. If you get big damage and you're in a Commodore, it looks like you're going to be stuck with that damage for the rest of the race, because the air jack issue means that the car won't go up on the air jacks, and so the service won't begin. That's going to be far from the minds of Matt Haywood and Aaron Gilbert here, as there's an exchange between them for the race lead coming into turn 6, and that was slight contact. It's gotten worse. It's gotten way worse. Our 2 leaders crashing at Dandenong Road, and Gavin Cox moves into the lead of the race.
Oh my, I did not see that one coming there, but neither driver.
On the rejoin.
Oh, it's caused Dave trouble.
Oh
Davis
my goodness.
into the Joshua King, into the stricken Matt Haywood there.
This is a chaotic start.
Oh no, Peter Pavlovich is showing up on the scene. These guys try to fix things up, my word. I mean, unfortunately that kind of painted the picture as it was happening there, Reese. Neither driver willing to give up, as realistically it's a one-line track there from turn 6 down to turn 8. You can then open it up, because you can see here, contact sliding Haywood out. He goes over the curb, and he just can't get the car. Well, Gilbert's also trying to come back across a bit as well, and they're basically 2 into 1. And yeah, I mean, then you'll see that's Jamie Davis through Josh King. Then bang!
Oh, wow.
I think, did he get help there from a car that he was near coming down the hill?
Not sure. Honestly, not sure. This is what happened to start off that chain of events. Dylan Gray and Daniel Stevens, just a slight bit of contact out of turn 4 turned into something way worse. Jovanovic spins, and then King. Have a look at Henry King in the number 2. That was incredible avoiding action. That has managed to get him into 3rd place in the end. And, well, that's how things stand at the end of this 3rd lap of the race. Gavin Cox and Dylan Gray trading the fastest laps. Cox, Gray, and King are your top 3. Oh, that's a spinner out of final turn. That's Lachlan Horan, unfortunately, who's had a bit of a whoopsie in the Falcon. Tell you what, some of the best fights up through the field are the drivers who were very careful and took avoiding action from that lap 1 incident. Scott Stevens has moved up from 18th to 5th.
Yeah, that's good moves there indeed from drivers such as Stevens. Crucially, but whilst we were coming back to live, Jay did have the camera focused on Jamie Davis. That's because, unfortunately, Jamie found himself in the gravel down at Dandenong Road. And we'll see here how it's happened. It's number 7 of Shane. Oh, sorry, this is Josh King. Unfortunately, it's Shane Bowen, who gives him the tiniest, gives him a modest tap there. And unfortunately, that's converted into making it a 3-car meatball at Dandenong Road on lap 2. Was that 1 or 2? I can't even count now. As you can see here, number 20 of Dion de Graaf actually has come back out after clearing his meatball. So being permitted to get back out on track. They did close the pit lane for regular service and such, but I guess emergency meant repairs to be able to race, I guess, doesn't probably fall under that condition per se. Although, according to Hayward, Gilbert and King all still in the pits.
Well, there's the most positions gained. Scott Stevens with the most by far, 13 spots. Jonathan Bykoff is up 9 spots, and Craig Mason up 8. Mason, the car ahead of Scott Stevens there. He is carrying some damage, though. He did get involved a little bit in that crush on the first lap. So we'll see how that affects his pace. Stevens hasn't quite been able to take much time out of Mason as of yet. Stevens, of course, did qualify 6 positions behind Mason, but we'll see how that damage affects the number 47.
Yeah, could be interesting. I'm just listening in from race control. Pardon me, I'm just going to listen to this.
All good. We shall continue to keep an eye here on Colin Bruns, who is ahead of Shane Bowen, who's already tapped 1 car around.
Yeah, I'll try and listen to this, and I can paraphrase, or do you want me to quote Henry King, who jumped on the radio?
Whichever. Use your discretion.
It will be due to the unique situation of the Commodore not being able to take service. It is, quote, against the spirit of the rules to come into the pits, fix your car, and return to the circuit. So I believe that there was a bit of a... Because, yeah, Aaron Gilbert still in the pit lane. Matt Hayward, Josh King, they've all stayed in the pits. So it would technically put Dion DeGraff as the only driver to have come back out, but he's actually coming straight back into the lane here on what is his 5th lap. So that will mean we are 4 cars down as the rest of the field starts lap 7 of this race. And for Gilbert, it's a big one because he's the only one with a meatball still to his name, but that means that's no points for him here in the rest of the night. As we go to another replay, the OKMS machine, I believe that's going to be Craig Mason, the 47.
Yep, spin. And that will allow Scott Stevens through into 4th spot. So this is the fight at the moment for that 5th spot, sorry. Mason ahead of Bruns and Bowen, who haven't really gotten into each other all that much.
Trouble at turn 4, Ben Henniker's in the wall. Got entangled with Jamie Davis and Dan Stevens in some fashion, I think, there. So we might want to replay if we can to try and decipher that as Bruns gets the rears locked up into turn 9. Just keeps it off the gravel, but he will lose the spot. Yep, there we go. Shane Bowen can get around the outside as they settle up for turns 11 and 12. So here's what happened with Henniker. So bit of an attempt on Stevens. Has he?
Davis.
He's just run Davis out of road there from that angle, at least.
Yeah, Davis wasn't required to change his line there. Another replay of Colin Bruns' moment coming down into Dandenong Road, and Shane Bowen gets by without much effort. Yeah, that's one of the difficulties of the opening turns here. Look at this onboard from Davis. You can see that, Henniker, I mean, he was tracking towards the outside, but there was still some overlap between the cars. And I think at that point, Jamie Davis's options were basically either go off the track or don't. And I wouldn't blame him for trying to stay on the track.
It's generally what most people like to do in that situation. Yeah. You're not wrong.
You could say.
I think I might be safe in suggesting that. I guess they're the third option, but since it's the one option that requires a racer to consider taking their foot off the loud pedal when it would normally be on, which is back out and quite another day without contact. I mean, look, you don't necessarily have to be contemplating that all the time. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if you can avoid the contact, is it something that is potentially better for you in the long run? Generally, I'd say, yeah, probably. But I mean, look, as you said, Davis was there, as Dan Stevens would have been on board with him. That was awfully deep in. It's caused a bit of a smoke show there through turn one from not just him, also Jamie Davis. So I think I had to actually get off the brakes and then lock him back up to not get run over a little bit. But they carry on as they were, and no big issues there, whilst just ahead in 8th and 9th, Jonathan Bykoff and Stefan Adams, two of our Falcons here, about half a straight away as they work their way down towards Dandenong Road.
Yeah, Bykoff, of course, one of the drivers in this field with some real-life racing experience, and he's certainly got the traction down pat in that number 68 Falcon. But the entries could use a little bit of work there. Coming out of the final turn then, and the battle will continue there as Stefan Adams tries to get by him. The fight between Davis and Stevens shows no signs of slowing down either. Let's see then, as pulling out for a brief moment was Stefan Adams. Oh man, he is pushing hard. The onboard here from Bykoff will tell the story. Look at that. Adams is trying every opportunity he can to try and get into 8th place, try and unsettle the driver of the number 68. Onto the back stretch though, straight exit for Jonathan Bykoff, and he'll stay ahead. A little bit more breathing room for just a tiny bit longer.
Yeah, it's every little bit that counts. It seems here as they work up towards turn 6 once more. You've already seen here, it's really a case of if you're in front, it's your corner. If you're behind, you better back out. Otherwise, it's going to be nasty. Here is an attempt of a pass at turn 1, I think it was, as Davis runs in a bit deep to make sure that there's no contact there. But inside for turn 2, it means that the 92 will hang on to that position ahead of Dan Stevens in the number 3. So they cycle on as they were. You can see them just in the background, a shot there for a moment as they come onto the front straight, whilst we continue to look at Bykoff and Adams here on the live feed once again. Both of them keeping things relatively neat and tidy in comparison. Also, both of them having made it through the opening couple of laps, whereas the two Commodores behind definitely looking a bit worse for wear in comparison, as we'll on board here with Bykoff looking back at Adams off at turn 4.
It looks like Bykoff has gotten a little bit more of an advantage in the last lap or so. Stefan Adams trying to keep his traction going, but have a look at this on board between them. Adams taking up a bit more of the braking capability of that Falcon and closes the gap back up. Again though, Bykoff focusing on the exits maintains the advantage. We've already seen that in the Grand Tour earlier. Seems like Bykoff is doing a really good job of looking after those rear tyres.
Yes, that will be the game here with no tyre changes allowed, which is what they all would have been expecting and planning for up until it was discovered, or I believe it was literally discovered tonight, that, yeah, all of a sudden, I do like your explanation for the event. Unfortunately, we haven't had too many of those in the YouTube chat this evening, but yeah, the fact that for some reason, control supplier of the Ajax has completely gone afoul there on our Commodores. But yeah, 26 laps, it's not that long of a race, you might say. But for these kinds of cars, they love a good fresh set of rubber. And certainly being able to slap on a new set of 4 tyres at some point during the race, that would have probably gone down quite nicely. But we'll just have to see how they can manage things instead. As speaking of management, that's not really what I would call ideal for your race leader in Gavin Cox, but still pointing in the right direction, and has 1.3 seconds to his name over Dylan Gray, who's still holding down the 2nd place since they're able to navigate through the chaos of the opening couple of laps here.
Yeah, for sure. I forget, has Middle Finger Racing taken a win in V8s this year? Because it has for the most part been the Aaron Gilbert show. I do know that at the Berta 161 in Oschersleben last round, there was a surprise win from the iRacing China community car. But yeah, I don't think we've seen Gavin Cox on the top step of the podium in this series before. So now that the race has reached its halfway mark, he'll have to focus on a bit more tyre management here. And look at Dylan Gray. Seems like he's starting to catch up. 4/10 were gained on that last lap, and Dylan Gray was the fastest car on track for a few moments before Henry King decided to take that honour, running 2/10 faster than him.
You would be saying, yeah, Gavin Cox, no race wins to his name this year, and looks to be, as I quickly cycle through Dan Stevens' results, also no race wins to his name this year yet either. So indeed, in fact, actually having a look through it, I'd have to try and see where are our race. Aaron Gilbert opening 4 races in succession. And then the double at Belle Isle. So in fact, of all of our 2 race formats, Aaron Gilbert, his streak of winning this particular double race format is finally broken here tonight. Because he's won every single one of these kinds of races so far this year, for what it's worth. In saying that though, in the triple race formats, being a little bit more variable. Actual race winners include Jason Spriggs, Matt Haywood, Dion DeGraff, they all grabbed a race win each at Phillip Island. Then 2 wins for Jamie Davis at Road Atlanta as trouble at the final turn for the 47 of Craig Mason. Unfortunately, that will see him drop back at least 3 or 4 spots for him, unfortunately. And then, yes, as you said, the iRacing China community car. So by that calculation, that is 5, 6, well, technically 7 drivers across 6 cars to have won races this season. Which looks like at this rate, therefore, we're going to get ourselves a driver number 8 in car number 7 of the season. Oh, Dylan Gray's just gone and had a moment at turn 9. That might just help out Gavin Cox a wee bit more.
Yeah, the gap for the lead has increased to 2.1, 2.2 seconds. And I also saw earlier on in that lap, we just caught it, Ben Henniker was having trouble at turns 2 and 3 earlier that lap too. So, yeah, Dylan Gray, he's been driving really well in this race so far, maintaining second place, but unfortunately it just looks like that curb on driver's left in turn 8 unfortunately nabbed him. And we were talking earlier, Dan, about the Grand Tour cars having ABS, so it's not as bad for them. Well, these cars don't have anti-lock brakes or traction control. Got to be much more careful through that section, and that's ultimately what happened to Gray. He got massively unsettled.
Yep, that's no big shock, I guess, there, although unfortunate, that's for sure. So with all of the moving and shaking that a couple of drivers have done here, now may ourselves a 4-car fight for 7th with going on through Bobby Jovanovic. He's
Good
actually
fight back.
Coming back into this despite the lack of bonnet and crumpled front end, and Craig Mason now just in behind him trying to recover after his moment down in the last couple of corners. That's a lock, rear and front for Bykoff there at turn 9. Gets it pulled up just, but now he's got Jovanovic trying to think about something there. No dice on the exit of 9 though, thankfully. Jovanovic in the grass at 11. He keeps a hang of it too though, through the last couple of turns.
My goodness. Yeah, Bobby Jovanovic is right on top of his car's behaviour, it seems. Just needs to be careful of his positioning. Bykoff was passed by Stefan Adams some time ago, and you see that Stefan has gained quite a bit of time. Now it's up to Bykoff to try and keep a Commodore behind instead of a Falcon. Could be 2 Commodores with Craig Mason still there trying to make a recovery from his spin at the final corner earlier. And Dan Stevens and Jamie Davis still haven't left each other alone just behind them as well, as that looks like Bykoff didn't get the best exit from turn 4. Jovanovic now in the slipstream. The Commodore doesn't have the best straight line speed with that damage, unfortunately, so he can't make a move coming into the S's. Let's see how aggressive he is on the brakes into Dandenong Road. He's not quite close enough, but he is going to try and move for the inside, try and psych out Bikeoff, but again, real life experience playing into it for Bikeoff. I'm sure that he's had that move put on him quite a few times, and he knows how to overcome it.
Yeah, I have to say though, he definitely was sort of going for it more, pretty much there, down into turn 9. There was Jovanovic. Just as you said, not able to get it, be close enough to get it in there properly, which was certainly helped though by Bikeoff being a tiny bit wide of the line through turn 6 at the top of the hill. So this is now very much the battle all the way from 7th through to 12th. Dan Stevens and Jamie Davis both join this fight as they all stack up in behind. Well, firstly, Bikeoff in the 68 Falcon, but Stefan Adams is close enough there to count him in. So see here, indeed, the run up towards turn 6 once again. Bikeoff just needs to make sure he doesn't get sucked in and run too wide here at the top of the hill, because he's a little wide again. He needs to use the curb, and they've got Peter Pavlovich they've got to watch out for here. Thankfully, he's able to pull it up there, and yep, he's out of the way. Nice. Took a moment for Lachlan Horan there on exit of turn 1 as well, independent of everything happening on screen. No change of position in this group on that particular lap.
Righto. 8 laps to go in this race, and Stefan Adams seems to have slowed down a little bit. He's starting to lose time to the chasing Bikeoff, and Jovanovic behind. Stevens, it seems, has gotten by Davis, unless he was already ahead of him, which it looks like he was. So ignore me on that. Jovanovic, once again, with a great exit out of the 4th turn here, but thanks to the damage and lack of straight line speed, he cannot take advantage of it. Won't stop Bikeoff from trying to break the draft. And now Jovanovic is a little bit closer, coming into Dandenong Road. Will he try the dive again? No, he won't. Lock up ahead for Stefan Adams. The exit is with the number 31 there up the front of this pack.
So continue to break away really from everyone here. Look at that again. Despite the damage and the pace loss for Jovanovic in a straight line, he's got such confidence, it seems, off the turns and through the turns versus Bikeoff here we're right on board with. Looking to the inside, Jovanovic locks the rears in one. He's able to hang on to it. Over the curb though as Craig Mason's trying to...
Oh no.
Side by side into the 2 and 3. They have to get back single file and stack right up underneath each other again. And Stevens eyeing off the to make something work then. All in all, Jamie Davis gets trapped in behind Stevens against Wall. But that now, big breather on Stefan Adams, and a bit of a breather too to Bikeoff in 68.
Yeah, Bikeoff is safe for the time being. We've seen how hard Jovanovic has been driving to try and recover. I'll be really interested to see what Jovanovic can do in race 2 if he avoids this kind of damage again. And have a look at that. That was a very poor exit for Jonathan Bikeoff and a slowdown for Dan Stevens in the background. There goes Bobby Jovanovic, but Bikeoff's going to try and fight it into the final corner. Oh, Jovanovic goes deep. Puts the power down. Bikeoff is going to try and come back at him into turn 1. This is the reason for the slowdown for Stevens. Davis tried to go up the inside at turn 6, and that sent Stevens off the circuit. But back to live pictures. Look at this. Jovanovic falling back behind Bikeoff, and now Mason, who tries in the outside of turn 1. They spin, and Davis and Stevens collect them both.
Oh my word, it's become 10-pin bowling in the opening corner. As unfortunately, starting there with Jovanovic and Mason, and then Davis and Stevens too close to be able to do anything with it. Looks like for now, all 4 of them have gotten away with that. And it's not turning down. So here we go. Under brakes into turn 1. Mason turning, well, from that angle, they're not really, possibly turning down, and then bang, bang from Davis. And also want to try and go on board with the someone, Jamie Davis, if we get a breather and want to rewatch it one last time, just to see. He probably had, well, as far as I can tell, really didn't have any time to respond and change what he was doing, mind you, and all of that. So here's another.
There's Mason turning in. Yeah, so there you go. Davis gets into Jovanovic. Stevens gets into Mason. All right, then. We can... Jay's telling us he's found a better angle. So let's see that one more time. Look at this. This tells the story. Yeah. I don't know. It almost looks 50-50 from above. Jovanovic did go a little bit deep, but then Mason did turn in quite aggressively. Stevens was absolutely boxed in there, wasn't he?
Yep. Just call that one the nowhere to go moment. That's for sure. And what it has done is now put Stevens, Mason, and Jovanovic together, although the number 3 machine is all kinds of slow, so unfortunately he'll be dropped like a stone out of that one there, because those two ahead have just absolutely blitzed past him.
Look at the car behaviour. That's a problem for Stevens. He has a suspension issue. There's a bit of right hand down the straights, and he's holding on to that wheel. Stevens, of course, running a direct drive rim, as most sim racers do these days, but my goodness, that car does not look fun to drive. And unfortunately, thanks to the supply chain issues with the air jacks, Stevens cannot get that damage repaired. He has to try and stick it out for the last 4 laps.
I think he will, given that get home, get classified, get some points on the board, and take what you can from this one. Might go down a lap in the process, but who cares at this point? It's not going to hurt you or any much more else. But yeah, get it done, sign off on it, and reset for the second race after you get a minute's reprieve to prepare yourself. So it leaves us now, unfortunately, with just a 2-car scrap for 10th. Mason, Jovanovic now both a little bit more walking wounded, trying to hang on to their cars. You can see there Mason having to down the hill towards turn 9. Jovanovic still stronger through the corners on the initial exit as well, but more damage in a straight line, not able to close the gap down. So he's really reliant on getting things done there. As at the other end of the front straightaway, Colin Bruns coming under pressure from Stefan Adams.
Yeah, Adams has been driving really well here. Bruns gives him just enough room, tiny bit of contact, but they keep it stable through turns 3 and 4. And that's the move finally complete there for Adams. He moves up into 6th place.
There you go. Check that one off the books. Finally, no, because the draft for
Bruns is
coming
coming back.
Strong, but surely can't hang around the outside here. We've not seen it work yet tonight. Indeed, Bruns will opt for discretion on that one. It's just ahead of them. We've got Ben Henniker. Indeed, Lachlan Holland actually fighting full position, a lap down here in front of our 2 who are racing for P6 on the road. So these 2 have got to sort out their fight and then hit the pause button. And our fight for 10th still going on, with Jovanovic now ahead of Mason as well. So 3 pairs of cars to worry about, racing over very different positions and bits of track. But good scraps here as the leading cars now have 2 to go in this opening race tonight. Is Jovanovic able to get enough slipstream to muscle around the outside at 6 here?
Let's see how this works out. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was aggressive. And Jovanovic managed to keep it going. I think credit also to Craig Mason. He probably recognized what was happening and backed out of it. But, wow. It looks like there's barely any cars in this field that don't have damage of some kind now. There's some very battered-looking Holden Commodores and Ford Falcons out there. And Mason with another poor exit from turn 4. I think Jovanovic might just jet away from him here. But it is the final lap. The white flag has already flown for Gavin Cox in the 555 for Middle Finger Racing. And Dylan Gray still sitting pretty in 2nd place. Henry King on his lonesome in 3rd. Actually, the gaps all the way down to the 10th place battle between Jovanovic and Mason are quite substantial. It's just a single lapped car there of his teammate Dan Stevens that Cox has to make his way past. Mason, meanwhile, getting back past Jovanovic for 10th place on the final lap. But Stevens' car is stopped here. It looks like he's just letting drivers go. But so bad luck for one middle finger racing car, but for the other, or one of the others, it is a first place finish. Gavin Cox becomes the 8th different race winner in V8s for this season. Very well driven indeed. The battle still goes on here between Craig Mason and Bobby Jovanovic. Let's see then. Mason. Yeah, he's managed to get it back done. Yeah, but Jovanovic is continuing to try and fight him here. Will there be a final lunge at Dandenong Road?
Let's have a look. Turn 6, both cars in on the curb nicely there. And Mason defends preemptively.
Oh, hello.
But Jovanovic around the outside on the curb. Can he get the thing to drive off the corner? I think the grass there has not helped Case as they come up to the last 2 proper corners here. Throws it in with the rear end, basically sliding it out there is Jovanovic. Mason will hang on, but by the barest of margin, it seems, in that race. And with that, everyone is across the line, and we can now bring our results up for race 1 of 2 for the V8s here at Sandown this evening.
Yep, Gavin Cox by 3.6 seconds from Dylan Gray and Henry King 10 seconds behind. That is your podium. Scott Stevens with mammoth run through the field, avoiding the carnage in the opening laps, gets into 4th place. Shane Bowen makes his way up from 7th to 5th. It was also an awesome fight up from Stefan Adams, Colin Bruns, Jonathan Bykoff, Jamie Davis, and of course Craig Mason, who round out our top 10. Jovanovic, the last car to finish on the lead lap. Stevens, Henniker, and Horan were all 1 lap down, and unfortunately we see retirements from Peter Pavlovich, Dion de Graaf, Aaron Gilbert, Matt Haywood, Joshua King, and Tim Nicol did not take to the start. So I'm looking for Gilbert and Haywood to really put the fight on here in race 2, Dan. They were the contenders for victory. They came together coming into Dandenong Road. Let's see if they give each other the space this time.
Well, I think hopefully it's now well clear that one does not go too wide at turn 6 and come out the other side without potential drama, I guess. It's not so much a guaranteed drama at turn 6 would happen. But yeah, it was a risk that they couldn't quite afford to take and didn't really need to take, you'd have thought, there as well. So race results set the grid here for number 2. So Cox from Gray, King from Stevens, Bowen and Adams, Bruns and Bykoff, Jamie Davis and Craig Mason there to round out your top half of the field. Then Bobby Jovanovic and Dan Stevens on row number 6, Ben Henniker and Lachlan Horan there 13th and 14th, Peter Pavlovich, Dion de Graaf, as we then get into our retirements from race 1 with Aaron Gilbert, Matt Haywood, and Josh King to round out the field there to make it should be, and indeed looks to be the case, of 19 starters once again. As the Rebs will rise here, Reese, for our final race of the night. Port event of the weekend here from Sandown is underway. Bad start, though, from Gavin Cox. It'll be Dylan Gray to lead. Stall from Shane Bowen in the back as well.
Yeah, no start for Shane Bowen as Henry King goes up the inside of Dylan Gray in turn 1, and a spin for Bykoff ahead of the rest of the field. Drivers try to take avoiding action. Oh no, it's happened again.
De Graaf and Scott Stevens has been taken, unfortunately. One of the drivers who did so well in race 1 to avoid. He couldn't avoid that one there. Oh, this is Stevens. Oh, he's around. Already got damage.
Goodness me.
Stevens picked up that much damage already straight away. He almost gets into, it was Jovanovic there that he clipped. Almost clipped there on the exit of turn 4 as they file up to turn 6. Side by side between Stevens and Josh King. That needs to be resolved, and it's going to be in a sense where Stevens over the top of the curb. Oh, Pavlovich locks up. Adams goes off with him at turn 9 ahead of these two here on screen. As they rejoin, Pavlovich.
Goodness me. This is, once again, lap 1, incredibly messy in this category. And it's resulted in 2 drivers gaining a massive advantage. Dylan Gray and Henry King. Oh, it's just continuing on, isn't it? Josh King now without a rear wing. Looks to me like there was a bit of a crush between Dan Stevens, Lachlan Horan. Yeah, Horan just getting backed up a little bit there, and King tapped the back of them. Oh, goodness, we've got a lot to dissect here and a lot that has affected this race already. But it is a battle of the Falcons at the front of the field. Dylan Gray versus Henry King. Here is the replay for Jonathan Bykoff on lap 1. It just looks like... it seems that Gavin Cox... Was that Gavin Cox and Scott Stevens that were on the inside at turn 1 there? I think they might have come together, and then Bykoff got involved as well.
Might have been near Dan. Oh my goodness, what the heck was Stefan Adams? And Dan
geez.
Stevens.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Caramba. Might be Dan Stevens. He got damaged really early on lap 1. And Gavin Cox was still up towards the front of the field with Gray and Henry King. But, so DeGraff and Bowen are in the pits. That means their race is done already here. And yeah, mechanical black flags to the pair. Scott Stevens, iRacing black flag has come his way as well. As we look at the start and the...
It was Gavin Cox.
Okay, we're being told it was Gavin. Oh yeah, that makes sense because Stevens alongside him there. So both of them have an average. So Bykoff around the outside. Touch.
Stevens was trying to give room to Cox on the inside there. So, yeah, that explains that. But whichever way you look at it, race control have a lot to sort out there. Like, who was really at fault for that?
It's just, yeah, one of those ones where that's going to be messy to say the least. We're going to go to onboard Dan Stevens, so further on back, in behind the stalled Cobalt car even. So try and get a read on this here. So, yeah, just leaving space and then clever damage there for Dan off of the back of Bykoff's car. That was in backwards. And then wiggle there. I think that's... I can't tell though if that's Josh King or Jamie Davis at that point of the lap. And then he gets up on the curb and just loops, and then as he gets going, clips Jovanovic, and then in all of that, there's also Dion DeGraff who got entangled in something as well. But that's going to be that there from that one, I think, because back to live pitches we go. Dan Stevens trying to continue to keep Stefan Adams behind that there for 9th place on the road. As,
they have the damaged Colin Bruns behind them as well, who's actually gotten a much better exit than Adams.
As see here if he can make something work into turn 6. Nose ahead, this should be his corner now. And looks like he's been allowed to move over there, because you can just see the banner on the Falcon there in the back, through the back window of 111. Although he's in a little hot there, has to get it pulled up a little awkwardly. As check back towards the front of the field, and look towards some of our hard charges in this race. And well, unlike that last race where it was himself and Matt Hayward ending their races prematurely, Aaron Gilbert and Hayward will make it now plus 12 and 11 respectively, as Gilbert clears Jamie Davis at turn 1, although the 92 doesn't want to give this one up if he can find something to make. Oh, that's going to be a nice run through turn 4. So the 92 is back on here at the end of the straight. There's Josh King independent, unfortunately. That's going to be grass, and a kiss to the Armco.
Yeah, a little smooch. But his teammate is still trying to fight for his position in the top 6. And you can see that he's definitely getting hurried along here by Gilbert and Hayward, both in front and behind. Carrying a slight bit of damage potentially to the front of that car as well. The two Falcons, meanwhile, they have got little to no damage on them. They miraculously avoided all of the ridiculousness in the opening couple of laps. Now they can finally get into a rhythm of some kind. Dylan Gray still leads this race. Henry King has not been able to make much of an impression on him. Gavin Cox remaining in 3rd place ahead of Craig Mason there. We're going to see something that happened here for Matt Hayward out of the final corner. Oh, just catches the curb and a big helping of opposite lock. So evidently that Simblack's Falcon is being pushed hard in its fight to get back into the top 6. Regardless, that is how things stand at the moment. Thinking about lap times, Henry King at the moment is the quickest car. 108.26 on the last lap. It was a 108.458 for Dylan Gray. Gavin Cox is trailing behind, and he's not quite been able to escape the clutches of Craig Mason. So at the moment, it looks like a 2-horse race here between Gray and King.
Look at our last lap times, and yeah, that is certainly... yeah, when we're talking 007, the difference, although turn 1 that time, Dylan Gray decides to offer up a couple more tenths on a silver platter for Henry King, who needs no further opportunity to take them. That will potentially show some pressures on, as Gilbert's got up the inside of Mason at turn 4. That is number 4 for the Fish in the number 1 car. Davis trying to get past, but the auto serve Commodore is struggling in a straight line, and now rubbing doors with Haywood, who's still yet to get past the 92 in all of this.
Wow, and Haywood has nowhere to go at the moment. Davis is positioning his car on the inside of that braking zone and not allowing any opportunity for the number 8 to go by. Gilbert now, he runs a little bit deep, does Gilbert. That's a poor exit onto the start-finish straight. Could we see Craig Mason having a run at him into turn 1? This night of racing has been crazy in the V8s category. And it looks like Mason is... Oh, wow, he got out of the throttle early. Goodness, Davis seizes the opportunity. Carpe diem, but it's not going to happen. And that finally gives the opportunity for Matt Haywood to go by. But he still has to pass Mason before he can start fighting with Gilbert again.
Oh, yeah, it was a lunge and a half, but just, yeah, killed any momentum off turn 1 there. And Davis not willing to fight that one too hard, it seems, into turns 2 and 3. Decided that just after his illustrious lunge, it was time to be a little bit more discreet through the chicane complex of the circuit. Down the hill they'll go once again here. All of them trying to find the openings. Mason's in hot. That's going to allow Haywood through, so that releases the shackles on the number 8, and Davis not able to follow through there on the corner exit, so only the 1 spot lost for the 47 machine there.
On board here with Matt Haywood. Was there contact? No, actually there wasn't.
Very close, but indeed not quite.
All right, so now the battle is between Mason and Davis for 6th spot. And Davis tries up the inside of turn 1. Not quite far enough alongside to get the move finished. Craig Mason has been embroiled in these fights in the top 10 pretty much all night so far. And I just saw evidence of a technical issue for Jonathan Bykoff. He still remains in 14th though, so things are okay for him, and he's on his lonesome. Actually, is he okay? No, Bykoff is having technical issues right now. We might end up losing him if his internet connection does not maintain itself. But the fight will keep happening between Jamie Davis and Craig Mason for some time. This is your gap at the front. 1 second now is the gap that Dylan Gray has to Henry King. And across the line they'll come. 108.5 for Dylan Gray. Quickest car on track that time by. Haywood still holds the fastest lap.
Yeah, we'll see if he can use that slight. I mean, I have to say it's quite slight indeed pace advantage. Although on that last lap, fastest car was your race leader Dylan Gray by about a tenth of a second to Aaron Gilbert and Matt Haywood, who were the next 2. Although Gilbert now up behind Gavin Cox, who were the 109.6 to the 555 last time round. That's not going to help things out there. As turn 6 you go once again. You can see here Cox not using much curb in comparison. Compromises the entry a little bit, it seems, to turn 9. Gilbert wants a way through, and he needs a way through to keep his march forward going. He'll look up the inside. Can Cox contest at 12? Not really. Gilbert just drives around the outside and says, I'll have that, thank you very much. A 2-for-1 special, although not the kind that Gavin would like. But bad drive off the exit curb. You'll have to lunge up the inside at 1, and I don't think that's coming just yet.
Okay. that's my heart attack for the night gotten out of the way. That was so close to rear-end contact for Matt Haywood on Gavin Cox, but he's managed to just pull it up in time. He will have to wait a little bit longer to clear that MFR car, with Colin Bruns now seemingly having an issue down at Dandenong Road. Too deep? Yes. Locked up? Gravel trap? Yes, indeed. And the number 31 makes a move. What happens here down at the final corner? Oh, Bruns a bit unstable on the way in, and ends up giving the room to Stefan Adams. And that was the move complete. That leaves Adams now in 10th spot. Aaron Gilbert will not be jetting away from the battles behind him anytime soon, but the advantage continues here for Henry King, who is miles ahead in 2nd spot. You see that? That's the visual gap. And even in the midst of all of that, Dylan Gray, still the quickest car on the circuit. He's driving really well.
I mean, yeah, sure, it's only a matter of hundredths now over the released Aaron Gilbert, but that means that he's keeping the gap slightly, well, keep edging the gap out in his favour. And so that's a 6-second margin that Aaron Gilbert, if a chance to completely turn this around, has to somehow overcome. And he's only going to have half a race to do it, because we are coming up on lap 13, which will be the end of the opening half of the race in this one so far. So, yeah. Really, for Dylan Gray, it's just keep the rhythm up. Although on this lap, he's lost a couple of tenths to Henry King, but then gains it back on the exit of turn 9 or thereabouts. So, tit for tat, perhaps. We'll see here what the lap times are like. There's a 1:08.7 for both P1 and P2. Aaron Gilbert decides he'll just take a healthy 4/10 chunk out of them both with a 1:08.3.
Yeah, now that Gilbert is finally unleashed and is able to turn on his qualifying pace. Oh, dear. Gavin Cox stays ahead, and, I mean, Haywood is just really late on the brakes, isn't he? That was a big slide through turn 1. He went deep and locked the rears on the downshift, it looked like. I think he might need to just dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it literally when he was on board. I was like, oh, we're not going to have a move happen. Lo and behold, closes up the air pocket that he had to Gavin Cox and made it absolutely none. So, oh, excuse me.
Oh, hello. Jamie Davis up the inside of Craig Mason, and he manages to park it on the exit too, despite a slide, and keep Mason behind. Craig's going to try at the final chicane. Slight tap. Davis stays ahead. I love that spot of the track. There's always something interesting happening there.
The place, I guess, where ambitious passers come to live. As Haywood stuck again behind Gow. He tried to get up at the final corner, but slide ruined the run down the front straightaway. So I think Haywood might be getting a little, potentially starting to creep into a bit of desperation, try and get the move done, because if he's got eyes on what the last laps are like, he's just lost another 7/10 to Aaron Gilbert on that one, who pulled another 3/10 on the race leader. So all of a sudden, from singing Dylan Gray's praise, which he's still doing a reasonable job, but it might have just now seen the best of his tyres go bye-bye, because there you go. King now back inside a second and looks to be holding inside a second here at the end of lap number 14.
Having said that, just saw on the exit of the final corner, Gray straightened it up well, and across the line he'll come for a 1:08.7, but King, indeed, about 3/10 faster. So, it is a fight for second. And Aaron Gilbert himself did a 108.7 as well. So it looks like the pace has stalled a little bit for car number 1. Looks like for the time being it is going to remain a battle for the lead with 2 cars involved here unless there's a safety car, which is still a possibility with 10 laps to go in a couple laps time.
I mean, yeah, haven't had one called yet tonight in any of our races. Wait, no. Yeah, literally just completely somehow blanked the safety car in race 1 of the Grand Tour. As, I've just watched Jovanovic fling it around the outside of Craig Mason at the top of turn 6. There's trouble for Hayward.
Oh, we might have to stay on this replay because something big has just happened for the race lead. Dylan Gray here at the final corner.
Oh,
absolute
no.
heartbreak. A little bit too hard into the corner. The rear's lost on him, and that will be a slow down penalty for Dylan Gray down the start-finish straight. He has lost the lead of the race to Henry King, but still close enough that he can potentially fight back.
Potentially, yeah, but the past couple of laps he has lost a bit of his event. Well, the advantage swung both in the favour of Henry King, but crucially Aaron Gilbert now making Srirachi. No, on that last lap, Henry King 8.7, Aaron Gilbert a 9.0 for comparison. So maybe the best of the tyres on the number 1 has come and gone, which wouldn't surprise me, I guess, with the way he's had to carve through the field and then try and keep putting fast laps on the board. Interesting sort of scene here. If we look further back for a second, Matt Hayward's still stuck behind Gavin Cox. I think is the one that I would bring attention to. See what the exit's like off of 12. All right, but only even really with the 555, who's got good drive, it seems, at this point in the race.
This is the problem that Hayward is facing, and we saw it a couple of times earlier in the race, particularly down here at turn 1. He's pushed so hard into the opening turn, with Cox also locking up. But down at Dandenong Road and down at turn 1, he braked so late and went for big slides, and that would have cooked his tyres. These cars do not react well to having the tyres overheated, and Hayward hasn't really had the opportunity to dial it back and try and get that temperature back under control. He's going to try again here potentially. He's up behind Cox through turn 6 and 7 and just catches the curb at Dandenong Road, but Cox himself runs deep and finally Matt Hayward is by.
Right, there you go. Issue resolves. Has Hayward got anything left in the car now to start closing the margin that he has blown out to the drivers ahead? Okay, second wind for Dylan Gray has emerged after his excursion. He's back on the tail of Henry King. Let's just see here, though. So Hayward actually grabs the curb on the way down. It's just an unforced lock there from the 555 Gavin Cox. But back to live pictures here with a... This will be, what's this, 9 laps to go. That, Henry King losing 3/10 to Dylan Gray. Yes, they've also lost more time to Aaron Gilbert, who's continued to chip away at things and maybe, just maybe, eyeing setting things up.
Oh, careful, Dylan.
For a late race run at the lead to get himself back on the winners list because he's won. He's won every race apart from the last race in this format so far this year. So, that would make
King.
it...
Bit of a slide.
So say that was aggressive from Gray over the curb at 11. Looks like they're going to both hang on for now here as they work off of the final turns. 8 laps to go. Yep, good. I can do maths. I do like it when I can do maths, Reese. It does help.
Number. That's a bit of dust up ahead of them. It looks like Lachlan Horan has had an issue up ahead of these guys. Stays well off the track, though, and lets them go. This was what happened to King. Just very aggressive for both cars over the curbs, but seems like Dylan Gray was able to keep it as Aaron Gilbert! Oh, my God! That car has no face left.
Oh, and you know who he's run into?
Uh-oh.
I think.
Oh dear. No, actually, Gilbert.
No, my bad. Completely independent.
Yeah, lost it on the curb coming out of turn 1. Oh, that is the worst place for that to happen too. Such a shame.
Ground it on the nose, or ground the floor of the car along the tippy top of the curb there.
We saw that happen last night in the flat sixes too. Or was it in the flat fours? I can't quite remember, but
it was I think it was a 6.
In both,
At least a 6. Director Kennedy thinking there was a flat 4. Yeah, that's hurting Aaron Gilbert to the tune of about 10 kilometers an hour down the back straight.
And at Sandown, any straight line speed disadvantage is suboptimal. Well, the 2-horse race for the lead resumes. Henry King still keeping himself ahead of Dylan Gray, was 0.2 faster on the last lap. I think that the only thing Dylan can hope for at this point is a big mistake from Henry King. We've already seen some errors from car number 2 in this race, so it's not quite over yet.
Yeah, make it more like 15k an hour for Aaron Gilbert, because he's just being passed like he's standing still by Dan Stevens. Further on back, Josh King. Sorry, Jerry Davis, my bad. Up the inside of Gavin Cox. Had it all kinds of locked up, but just finds a bit of space given to make the move stick without too much more drama there.
Yeah,
that could have been a whole lot worse.
It was very spectacular. Here it is on the replay. So Davis catches that curb again and locks the inside tyre, but still fires it up the inside. I think that was good heads-up driving from Gavin Cox. Realised what was happening and just gave him the corner. But he is fighting back coming into turn 1. Davis, of course, I think struggling with some overheated fronts as a result of that unplanned manoeuvre.
Yeah, that would probably have just done the left front a little bit of a hurt. As Jonathan Bykoff, similar thing. Although solo, yeah, locks later in the braking run there, and goes around on the exit. Thankfully away from the walls just enough to be able to get that car pointing back in the direction of the racetrack and resume the forward momentum. So watch back on live pictures again here. 21 of 26. Our final race of the night here from Sandown. The final race of the SCOPS supports program as well. Bobby Jovanovic quiet somewhat here in race 2 after the chaos at the start of the second race here, but his car is mostly undamaged, and now might be able to eye off a chance at a top 4 finish in this one, because yeah, this is what it is now, the battle for between these 3.
Yep, Jamie Davis trying to stay ahead of Gavin Cox. Bobby Jovanovic with some excellent runs tonight. I think that was one of the most interesting fight backs in race 1, with the heavy damage that he got, to still continue to fight for the last position in the top 10. Of course, he has escaped damage this time, and looking at the lap times, he is faster than both Davis and Cox right now. So let's see what that 089 can do in the last 5 laps of this race. Henry King and Dylan Gray have passed the 5 lap to go mark, and between them, once again, Dylan Gray a little bit faster. Further up though, look at this here between Craig Mason and Daniel Stevens. Further back, I should say. Across the line they'll come. It looks like Peter Pavlovich has lost 13th place to Jonathan Bykoff. And that is some very heavy damage on Pavlovich's car. On board with Dan Stevens. It's nice to see that the wheel is looking a lot straighter than it did this time last race.
Yeah, that definitely helps just a little bit when trying to get this race to the end. Let's see here up behind Mason as we approach turn 6 once more. Closing with the toe. He'll show the nose, but they're not close enough. So gets back or out of it to try and set up to come down the hill. Well, that's going to be a lunge. Play on. No, the timing couldn't be better on that one.
Yeah.
Is Jay Kennedy preparing me for what's to come in the next half an hour or so? Actually, more like 40 minutes. We'll get there eventually, but that was clean from Bykov, thankfully, there. All the way down the hill on Peter Pavlovich. Dan Stevens, did he get a move on here? Oh, yeah. We might want to stay on replay if we can.
Yeah, because Dylan Gray has just gotten past Henry King and back into the lead of the race. This was a good bit of racing between these two cars, Mason and Stevens. But this is how Henry King lost the race lead just a moment ago. Off turn one, bit too much curb on the exit, big slide. It was well recovered, but Dylan Gray was right there to take advantage.
All right then. So it's properly on for the lead with 2 and change to go here in the V8s. Matt Hayward, 7 seconds back, has not been able to make inroads. Look at the twitching there. These cars have got nothing left, it seems, in the every downshift, every blip matters so much now. To get these cars pulled up as late as you can and without losing. Indeed, 2 to go. Starts now into turn 1. Let's see here. Neither driver willing to push the curb too hard there at the exit of the first corner. Look pretty even through the opening sector there. Turns 2, 3, 4 and the run onto the back straight here.
Yeah, but you saw once again Dylan Gray straightening up the car a little better and just gains a tiny bit on King in the acceleration zone, but then the draft comes back to car number 2. Down to Dandenong Road then. Got to keep the wheels straight, keep it stable. King aggressive over the curbs on the way in. Gray, though, keeping to the inside. Gets a much better run through the corner. And they're going to come across the line in just a few short moments to take the white flag. Henry King again with a big slide. That is some valuable time lost there for Henry. And Dylan Gray will lead by over a second at the line as we have 1 lap to go at Sandown.
Well, this might just be his to lose now with that kind of a margin in behind. Turn 1. Tick the box off. Neat, tidy, not too much exit curb used. Goes over to set up for turns 2 and 3. Fairly conservative on the curb usage there as well. So check off sector 1 as he gets through turn 4 and a nice straight exit there too. Henry King. 1.2 back now there as we begin the run down the back straight. Does close about a 10th and a half there as he gets up to speed, but pretty dead even down the straightaway as we come to turn 6. Neither driver runs wide. Looks under control here from Gray. Now just 1 braking zone left here to finish off his race as Jovanovic has bombed up the inside of Gavin Cox of P5 further on back.
But for Dylan Gray, it's going to be a run to the finish line in first place. That is a 9th different race winner of this season of V8s. Dylan Gray wins race 2 at Sandown. A fantastic drive from a driver who has shown plenty of talent in the past. Jovanovic will finish ahead of Gavin Cox in the end and take the last spot in the top 5. Just magnificent drives from many people in this race. And that's what the gap was at the very end between Jovanovic and Cox.
The move happened back at turn 6.
Yeah. So turn 6 is Jovanovic's favourite spot to put a move on, it seems. Let's see then. They're all started with the run out of turn 4. Jamie Davis driving way ahead of them, but Jovanovic right in the slipstream. And it was an inside move this time. How hard did Gavin Cox fight this? You did say it was a bomb. Well, there we go. That is the bomb there. Wow. And Jovanovic managed to keep it within track limits too.
Well, There we go. As they'll bring it around. Looks like, yeah. Dylan will take a moment to light up what's left of the rears on his Falcon and send them to a place beyond, as it were.
Is there an afterlife for tyres?
Well, when they get smoked off like that, I guess it's a possibility. But yeah, we'll see here now. Our race results 7/10. About in fact, more on 3/4 a second there between Dylan Gray and Henry King for your top two in the field tonight. Matt Hayward brings the gap down towards 5.9 seconds there at the end, with Jamie Davis and Bobby Jovanovic to round out your top five there. Gavin Cox will be shuffled to P6 ahead of teammate Dan Stevens there, with Craig Mason not too far behind Stevens to make it P8. Stefan Adams will hang on to P9, and then the damage to Aaron Gilbert's car, they're going to send him all the way back to P10. When you're doing 1 minute 11s around Sandown, when your competition's doing 1 minute 9s, definitely straight line.
Yeah. It's been a night to forget for Aaron Gilbert. Colin Bruns will finish in 11th ahead of Ben Henniker, and last two cars on the lead lap, Peter Pavlovich and Jonathan Bykoff. Lachlan Horan did take to the checkered flag, but a lap down, and that is a long retirement list. Unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to Joshua King, Scott Stevens, Shane Bowen, and Dion DeGraaf. Tim Nicol, once more, did not take to the start in that race. Well, racing action is over and done with, but we do have Matt Hayward in the box with us tomorrow, of course, racing in the Sandown 500 from 3:50 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Matt, that was a very interesting night for you indeed here in the V8s. Just didn't seem like race one went your way. It was a bit of a chaotic start there.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Had some mega pace in this car tonight, with qualifying on pole and going off the back of last night, winning in the 86 as well. But yeah, race one didn't quite go to plan, and I'll put my hand up and apologise to Aaron. I'm probably as much to blame as him on that one. So we live and learn. But yeah, coming from the back in race two, 18th to 3rd, I think it was in the end. So got to be happy with that, but still disappointed with the pace that we had in the car and nothing really to show for it.
Oh, well, it did seem like it was all about consistency here at Sandown, so I suppose at the very least you've still got a good idea of what your potential is like for future rounds of this series.
Absolutely, I always love coming to Sandown. It's one of my favourite tracks growing up, watching the supercars in the Sandown 500, and as soon as it came out in iRacing, I was into it. So yeah, I seem to really click with this track for some odd reason, but yeah, if there's more SCOPS events here, I'll be pleased.
Yeah, indeed. Well, before we let you go, Matt, is there anyone that you'd like to thank for your result tonight?
Absolutely, big shout out to SimBlacks here in New Zealand. Stefan's got a great setup here. I've just recently upgraded to a Sim Magic wheel and base, and really feeling some good feedback with that. So if you ever need a SimBlacks is the way to go, and I'm sure anyone on the team would help us out. Also thanks to Rankin Plumbing, they do a great job up in Auckland cleaning all the drains and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and you guys for doing the broadcast.
Thanks very much for joining us, Matt Hayward, 3rd place in race 2, and we can welcome a new race winner to the commentary box. Dylan, we don't have much time, but we just want to congratulate you, and that was certainly a fantastic drive from you, battling with Henry King all the way to the end. How does it feel?
Let's just say it was one of the toughest races I've ever had on a sim.
Yeah, certainly was incredibly tough indeed. Did you find that the car had pace pretty much early on? Because I noticed that in race 1 you were certainly putting down some good times as well.
The car had awesome pace, and that just made a couple of silly mistakes, but otherwise the car was handling good, which I was happy about.
Well, P1 for you in the end. You are the 9th different race winner of the V8 season here. Is there anyone you'd like to thank for your results tonight?
SLM Motorsport, which is the team, our sponsor, subspeed.com. They came on board during the week and if you go to their website and use SLM, you'll get 10% discount off your at checkout.
All right, awesome stuff. Thanks very much for joining us, Dylan Gray, brand new race winner here in the V8 series. Dan, we're going to have to bounce now because we've got to get ready for Max Bantz. But next round of V8SCOPS supports will, of course, be at the Bathurst 1000, 22nd and 23rd of September. That's going to be a huge weekend.
A full house indeed for the biggest race on the V8SCOPS calendar. Yeah, just 2 weeks away, and we go again for 3 days of V8SCOPS commentary. Yeah, it's long this weekend. It's going to be even longer in 2 weeks' time at what hopefully, though, will be a great bit of racing in terms of cars and, of course, the track.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much to all of the drivers for putting this show on, and big thanks, of course, to Oceanic Sim Racing for organising V8SCOPS supports in the first place. I'm Reese Gardner, Dan Yeaman with me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy on production. Tomorrow, of course, the Sandown 500. Don't miss it, but you can stay with us here on SimSpeed TV. We are going to go offline for a little bit, but we'll be right back with the Max Bantz Open. We're playing Bulldog in the LMP3 at Willow Springs. We'll see you again in a bit.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.